Hi, I'm David Meniane, and welcome to The Engine. Today I have a very special guest. Usually sits on the other side of the camera, the woman in black, the Dua Lipa of auto parts, the Kim Kardashian of e-commerce, Tina Mirfarsi. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. I wore black today to emulate you a little bit.
I like it. You don't have the red socks, so.
No, I don't.
So let's start with how we met. So I think it was 2014, 2015, 6 years ago.
Yes.
How did we meet? Because I don't remember, so.
Yeah, so I don't want to lie. I don't remember the exact moment that we met, but I do remember kind of your essence. So it was at LA Libations, and every day I'd be sitting in the office, and when you would come into the office, you were like always on a mission. From the moment you stepped into the door, just to get to your chair, you were walking so fast, ready to go. And I would think to myself, like, this guy is so intense. But I think over time, like, that kind of energy was so contagious, And I think once we realized that we were on the same page about what we wanted to accomplish at the company and the expectations that we both had, I think we just were able to develop a good friendship.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about your background. I know you come from entertainment. How did you get to where you are today?
Yes, so I spent majority of my career in entertainment. And when you called me, in August of 2019 to come to Car Parts, I thought to myself,
I didn't really, I begged.
Well, I wanted to leave that out, yes. But yes, when you called me in August 2019 for me to come to Car Parts, I thought to myself, yikes. I was like, wanted to work with you, but I was like, I know nothing about the car parts industry. And honestly, over the last 2 years, I've learned more about car parts than I think I ever wanted to learn in my lifetime. But the really nice part is, I've noticed that all my experience from entertainment, because I was more on the corporate side, on the investor relations side. So my experience working with investors, working with PR, working with communications has really transferred over so well to my role here. So it's been fun. And now I know what shocks and struts are. I know what catalytic converters are. So maybe more helpful for me if something happens to my own car.
So actually, I want to hear about your role. So when I called you in August of 2019 and begged to bring you over, we actually didn't have a team or a department to do what you do. We built the department around you based on your capabilities and what we needed in the business. What's your official title and what do you do?
Okay, so my official title is VP of Operations and Corporate Communications. So when I came in August, I came as VP of Operations to work directly for you. And so it was just understanding the foundation of like what we were doing here, who everyone was at corporate headquarters and what our needs were. And then my role started kind of expanding from there. And the first project I took on outside of operations was rebranding JC Whitney. And that was really, really fun for me, really challenging, took me out of my comfort zone. And, just the thought of how do you take a company that's this legacy brand over 100 years old and you keep its essence, but make it modern. And I thought, this is really fun. And over time, as the team kept getting bigger and bigger, my role continued to grow. I think it's a glutton for punishment on my end. So then added on VP of Corporate Communications. And I really, really enjoy it because I get to use both the right and left side of my brain on a day-to-day basis. So on one hand, logistics, Excel spreadsheets, like how are we gonna make this work? How are we gonna make that work? And then I get to change my brain 30 minutes later and say, earnings are coming up. What outlets are we going to get you guys on? How do we want the company to look? How do we want you to look? And I really enjoy being able to do that.
So it's funny because you say your title is VP of Operations and Corporate Communications. I always thought of your team as like a special ops team, like the Navy SEALs of corporate America. So, there's always something that comes up and a pressing need. And I go to you and you figure out a way to just assess the situation and execute. What's your favorite part of that job?
My favorite part of having that challenge is, I think, this is going to sound strange, but the more complicated, the more complex, the tighter deadline, it's just kind of where I exist and where I'm the happiest.
What was the most complicated project you took on a short deadline in the last 3 years?
I think our move to this office was really challenging. We had an entire plan put together and we were going to move April of 2020. And I came into the office March 13th, 2020. And it was like, we're all packing up and never coming back. And we were still having to move. So trying to figure that out, get our vendors, make sure everyone's safe, that was, challenging.
So what's the favorite task that most people don't like doing and you just enjoy?
I'd have to say attention to detail. For me, that little something, when someone walks into an event or they walk into an experience that we put together and they see all of that detail, it's really rewarding for me.
I think it's always the little things. There's always like something more extra that you didn't anticipate. And then the next event, there's something more, and next event, there's something more. It's like always an extra detail. It's discipline.
We're trying to one up ourselves all the time.
What's one thing that you just don't enjoy doing?
I don't know if there's anything that I don't enjoy doing, but I think things that put me out of my comfort zone are things that I just don't know. All of us have been working for a long time, longer than we probably want to admit we've been working, but you learn a lot of things. And at some point at certain jobs, you go on autopilot, and which is a really comfortable place because you just know you're crushing it and you're just doing it day in and out. At some point you look at your life and you're like, I'm bored. Being humble enough, I think, to realize that I don't know everything all the time and to put myself out of that comfort zone to learn, whether it's doing it on my own or asking somebody else for help. I think that puts me out of my comfort zone, but I enjoy it.
So is it different to be on this side of the camera?
Yes, it's not fun. I don't know how you do it. It's uncomfortable.
I have good coaching and I get a slap on the wrist every time I do something bad. So
yeah, I'm better as a teacher than in front of the camera.
Yeah.
For
So
sure.
What would you say is the biggest impact or the most interesting project you worked on over the last 2.5 years?
It's really a personal thing for me to tell you where I think I've been the most impactful. But, in the last 2 years, we have been in a turnaround. So we've been all hands on deck focusing on how to get this company on the right path. How can we set it up for success? And we've been really lucky, my team and I, to be an integral part of that process, to build processes where they didn't exist. So whether it's corporate social responsibility, which we never had as a company, putting that into place. Or the last 2 years, we've gone through things that none of us ever thought we would go through. So to think about what is our company culture, let's build that. And then 6 months later, hey, everyone's working from home. How do we keep them engaged? And then 1 year later, okay, now half of them are here. How do we make them happy, but also keep people that are still home engaged? So I hope that the impact that we've made is to put together processes that this company can use 10, 20, 50 years from now.
And I think when the pandemic hit, like retaining that culture and the employee engagement, you were a big part of it. I feel like every couple of weeks or every month we had like a special virtual event. Like, how did you come up with all this? Because I had no role to play in this. I showed up, I had an invitation on my calendar, like, hey, there's a painting class, there's mixology class, or there's a live DJ. Like, where do you come up with this stuff?
Well, I have an exceptional team. That's how we come up with these things. I think I have a very small but mighty team. We're 4 people managing 2 departments. And I think the thing that makes my team so amazing is we all come from different backgrounds. Facilities, PR, events, HR, and everyone's life experiences and their work experiences plays a role into everything that we decide to do together. So we listen to every idea and we want to make the events as successful as possible, or else we're wasting our time. I think when we show up to these events and we see everyone so happy, it really brings us joy. And at the end of the day, if we're having trouble finding inspiration, we go to Pinterest.
What was your favorite event that you put together? I think you put together, maybe 12 or 15 over the last year or so? What was your favorite?
I'd have to say our Diwali celebration, to be honest. We ordered Indian food from a local restaurant. We had a henna artist here. We played music. We showed up in our traditional saris. You would think it was so small because we've also put together like a drive-in movie on the top of our parking lot. But I think just seeing how everyone felt so included, that we had thought of them, I think was just such a sweet moment.
I think I would have said the same thing, because the number of emails that I got after the celebration was just like, my inbox was full of thank yous. Don't thank me. Like, yeah, it was an incredible event. The whole team had fun, and I think it said a lot about the culture that we're trying to build, and you're a big part of that.
Thank you.
Your team works extremely long hours. I think everyone at corporate like works really long hours, but I think your team, there's a lot of stuff at night and on weekends. Like, how do you balance the workload with your personal life?
The real honest answer to that is I don't. I don't balance my work and a personal life as well, but I would be lying if I didn't say that work takes priority. I think you know that feeling
Yes.
very well. But, there's a lot of things that I do enjoy doing in life, my friends, my family, going to good restaurants. So I try to make sure that this one life I have is a really good one. But I also really love what I do. So, it's a tough, it's a tough balance.
So I send a lot of emails and Teams messages and text messages. What's the earliest text message you've ever gotten from me, like work related?
Probably about 4:30 in the morning.
And what's that feeling like?
Well, it depends what the email says. No one wants to hear from their boss at 4:30 in the morning. I just want to be honest about that. However, if it's a great email, I love to hear it. If it's you're stressed out, I also love to hear it, to be honest. Like, as much as it stresses me out a little bit, I think, that's part of being a supportive role is you're there for me in times where I've hit my absolute maximum, and I try to be there for you as best as I can, but if you can get it more towards like 7:30, 8 a.m.,
Yes.
that would be great.
Sometimes I just need to get it out of my system.
Sure.
You've taught me a lot over the last 6 years. We've worked together on so many different projects. I've learned a lot from you. The one thing that I use almost every week is when I'm pissed, I write a really long email and then I just delete it. So it gets it out of my system. We call it the Tina rule. So Lev uses it now and we got a bunch of people using it. It's a great strategy.
It is. I'm
You
glad
use
you
it too.
Yes, I do. Yes, I pound out the email on my keyboard. I
To
take
me?
it out. I get everything out on the email, and then I read it, and I'm like, delete. And it just allows me to get it out of my system, like you said, but not make the situation worse.
I want to talk more about the personal stuff on your side. You're a foodie. You're also a great cook. I've had an
Thank you.
opportunity to go to your house and eat some amazing food. Like, where does that come from? And what's your favorite dish to cook?
Comes from my dad, actually. Ironically, growing up in a Persian family, my dad was the one who was cooking most of the meals, but I just love it. I love eating good food, and I think I love the artistry in it. Like going to a restaurant, the chefs plan this entire menu for you, and you get to experience their art. I'm not one of those people who's like, take this out, take that out, light on the butter. It's like, just make it exactly the way that you want to make it, and I will happily consume it. But I have a lot of favorite things that I like to make. But during the past 2 years, one thing that I've started doing that used to be intimidating for me is I started shucking my own oysters and I charbroil them on my grill outside. Wow. And it's really a fancy thing to do for yourself with a nice bottle of white wine. So I would have to say that brings me happiness.
So shifting gears, what's your favorite thing about working at carparts.com?
I mean, I think it's cliche to say, but it's the team, it's the people. Like, everyone's so good at what they do, but they're also fun to hang out with. Obviously, we've known each other for 6 years, but there's people who I've been working with now for 2 years that I truly enjoy their company. And I'm in awe of the expertise that they each have and what they do. And obviously, my personal team is, I think the best of the best. And managing 2 different departments is not an easy task, and we're just managing so many projects at the same time, and it can be very stressful. It's nice for me to be able to have a team that even when we're completely stressed out, we find fun, and we just really enjoy being together and coming up with these crazy ideas that we know is going to take so much work on our end to actually do. Yeah. But we enjoy each other's company, and I appreciate that.
What's your secret to success?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know what the secret is to success. Work hard. I have a fantastic team. I surround myself with people who are so smart, so great at what they do. Team motto, our subculture in my team is unrelenting preparation. And I think that really encompasses what we do. And I think ultimately brings success to our events is we look at everything 10 times in every which way possible. Make sure that we're prepared, make sure that we don't miss anything, and I think that puts together a really good product at the end.
Discipline. So if you had a magic wand, what's one thing that you would change at carparts.com?
I don't necessarily think I would change something at carparts.com. I think when you start looking at the roadmap for a company, you have priorities, right? It's a business. You can't do everything all at once. And so if I had a magic wand where I can make a wish, I would probably wish that every department and every team had all the resources they needed to be as successful as possible. If I was able to get a second wish out of my wand, I would wish that when the time comes and we have to move offices, the wand could pack everybody up and beepity boppity boo, shift it over to the new office that you would be very happy with.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, so sorry. Any final words of wisdom?
Final words of wisdom. I think final thoughts, I would say thank you for being a good boss and for trusting me to come in and do all the things that I do, and for trusting my team to be creative. You don't micromanage us. You lead from behind, and it's been fun. You know, we've done some fun activations with you, and you show up and you say, okay, tell me what to do, and it's not every boss is like that.
All right. Thank you, Tina. Thanks for
Thank
taking
you.
the time. I know you're busy. Fist bump. Let's go.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.